Hello and onegaishimasu. Now, here's a hot take for you. Stop putting logos and too many patches on your gis. Alright, so this is a little bit of a hashtag hot take, but I have my explanation for this. Don't worry, I have a sensible reason. Now, this came to my mind especially because I was going to practice, and on Mondays we share our practice space for the previous 2 hours before we practice at my dojo. We share that space with the Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu Club, which, well, has a lot more people attending than we do, which I'm kind of salty about. Not because I don't like Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, although that is a topic I need to get into another time, but rather because I would like my dojo to be bigger. But anyway, one thing that I noticed especially with a lot of the Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu guys, and with also a lot of people in similar martial arts, is that their gis are just like multiple different colors, decked out with all sorts of logos and patches and advertisements and all that kind of thing, and I hate it. Now, this is gonna sound like some unnecessarily strong emotion. I mean, it's their own gi, they can train in whatever they'd like, right? Well, this is gonna kind of get back to something that I think is very important about the martial arts, which is not commodifying the martial arts. The martial arts shouldn't be something that you can buy and sell. It should be something that you train and get better in for its own sake. And I kind of really have an axe to grind with people who essentially sell it as a lifestyle or sell it as a consumer identity, basically. Now, I don't think that you shouldn't buy things that say karate on them or buy things that say whatever martial art you train, and I think it can be a wonderful way to show like your dedication to the art or your like enjoyment of it. For instance, I'm filming this on my phone right now, so I can't show you, but my phone case has Karate Do written on the back, and it's basically the best purchase I've ever made in the last long amount of time. It was only like $35 too, but the thing is, there's a limit to what is an appropriate amount of buying and selling that you can do within the martial arts. And to me, kind of putting logos and putting patches excessively on your gi is well past that. It's gauche. It's just awful. I hate it so much. I don't usually feel this strong about very many things, so the fact that I'm saying that I hate it is like a big thing. First off, I think it just kind of looks bad, aesthetically, and you can argue about aesthetics all you want, and if you ask 5 different people what looks good, you're going to get like 12 different answers, because there's no such thing as like, at least that I can tell, of things that universally always look good. But, well, going back to what the kind of aesthetic of a martial artist is, one thing that comes to mind, at least for me, is this kind of clean and basic understanding. Now, the gi in and of itself kind of looks very different than modern clothing, but I think that that should be kind of the limit. You shouldn't go further than that. Now, this isn't to say that you shouldn't put any patches or have like any decorations on your gi at all. One thing that a lot of dojos like to do is they like to have a patch that's an indicator that you're studying at that school specifically. And I don't think that there's anything wrong with that necessarily. For a while, my home dojo had a patch that I used to wear, and traditionally those patches go on the like left side of the jacket on the corner, like right above the heart. I think that's a good thing. I don't think there's anything wrong with that. And I also don't think there's anything wrong with a little bit of decoration on the front or on the back, although honestly I would prefer to kind of keep it minimal for myself. But if you want to like have a large school logo printed on the back of your gi, you do you. That's fine. There's nothing wrong with that. But what there is something wrong with is kind of the 50,000 different like brand name screen prints that you can put on gis nowadays. I'm so done with this. And I've noticed that like specifically judo and jiu-jitsu tend to be some of the biggest offenders in this regard. Not against those particular arts. Those are really good arts, and I'm actually looking to start cross-training in probably judo before jiu-jitsu, although to be fair, a lot of what I do on some of my karate classes is already heavily influenced by one of my sensei's experience with jiu-jitsu, so I don't think I'm going to be coming in blind with that. But I don't want to make it sound like I'm insulting these arts. They're good arts in and of themselves. They're very practical for the range that they're designed for, and it's important that you understand that Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu or Japanese Jiu-Jitsu or Judo or what have you are all very effective at grappling range, at takedown range, not so effective if you're before those kind of ranges, not so effective if you haven't gone to the ground, if you're not trying to take someone down yet, but that's another video topic. I'll make something about that later. Because basically the idea that I want to get at here is that it's not a problem with the style, it's a problem with the fact that this is kind of being sold, that this is a lifestyle that is probably resulting in a large markup for these kind of gis, a large markup for these kind of things. But also, I think that there's something a little bit kind of cheapening about the idea of putting a whole bunch of like patches or information on your gi. It's kind of like selling the uniform that you're either training or you're competing in as kind of like a NASCAR style, like pure advertise. It's just not. A lot of this kind of comes back to some kind of generic critiques of McDojos that are more interested in selling you a product or many different products or training as a product or as a consumer identity than they are in actually training you in a martial art how to fight, how to use the techniques. And basically what I'm saying is that if you have to kind of continually buy these upgraded materials or these new belt ranks, if you're purchasing that, that's kind of counterintuitive and that goes against what the martial arts is supposed to be. The martial arts really can't become a consumer identity without losing something fundamental to what makes them worth training. Because at the end of the day, there's only really one way to get a black belt, which is to train, to practice, and to earn it. And that sounds like 3 ways because I held up 3 fingers, but I swear that's all the same thing. If you train hard, practice hard, you will earn a black belt, and that is the correct way to get a black belt. And the incorrect way is to go to a store and purchase it, and these kind of situations where you're spending a lot of money on buying better training gear or accelerated training programs and all of that as the primary money-making function of the school or of the dojo is essentially just like that, but with a few extra steps. You're not like directly giving someone money and you get handed a black belt, but basically you're kind of giving someone money over time in return for the like promise that you will get a black belt when this is all done. And I think that means that a lot of the time people end up paying for the physical black belt without earning the kind of mastery and the skill that you need to actually be a black belt. Now, I personally have to put my cards on the table. I'm very traditionalist when it comes to a lot of this. I want my belts to have very few differences in rank. Honestly, my ideal is white, green, brown, black for karate, but I know that other styles have different systems and different indications of mastery, so I'm not going to go too hard on that. But I like my gis to either be white or maybe black. No other colors, and I like there to be as minimal decoration as possible, but that's just my personal preference. I can't tell you necessarily that you have to not get that fancy new orange gi top or that fancy kind of red gi or the patterns and all of that. But what I can say is it looks gauche, and it really is just kind of, to me it seems like a lot of these things, especially when the dojo kind of promotes that you all wear this kind of specifically flashy set of patches or specifically flashy color gi, is kind of a way of essentially saying, at this school, we don't focus on the technique, we focus on the way it looks. And I also want to clarify, there's nothing wrong with focusing on the way it looks at all, and in fact I really like focusing on the way it looks, especially for tournaments, but focusing on the technique is also necessary. Otherwise you're not training a martial art, you're training very fancy nonsense, you're training one of those no-touch techniques. That's another topic as well. But anyway, please, to the entire martial arts community, if you're watching this, don't put so many logos or don't put so many patches on your gis. Keep it simple. After all, you're there to train, not to look perfect. It's okay if you look bad once in a while. It's okay if you don't look amazing every instant that you're in the dojo. Because the point is that you're training, you're getting better, and you're dedicating yourself. That's the whole thing. But what do you guys think? What's your favorite kind of aesthetic of a gi to train in? Do you think that those logos are good, actually? Feel free to politely try to convince me of whatever your thoughts are, or to just validate what I said, because I think it's totally perfect, down in the comments below. While you're down there, make sure to hit like on this video and also hit subscribe to see more of my face and hear more of my thoughts on martial arts. And whatever you're doing, train hard, and arigatou gozaimashita.